right, let's get to number 2. Getting your ducks in a row. And Keith, this is where please fill us in, because you're more important than us at this point, right? We shouldn't take anybody out if they can't submit an offer same day, flat out. And that means they need either a proof of funds or a pre-qual. And fill me in again, what is the pre-qual and your fill us in with
pre-approval. Yeah, so I got to tell you, as a loan officer, one of the most frustrating things in the world is one of your referral partners, agent, calls you up on Friday at 6 o'clock, or maybe even got to put an offer in ASAP. In this market, that boat already sailed. Probably not going to get it done in time. Because depending on the borrower, it may take a while to get a pre-qual, especially if they're self-employed. COVID has much greater restrictions on self-employed people right now. So it's really, I understand the concern that some agents have about pushing the pre-qual on the borrower to get it done ahead of time. You want to make sure they establish, and correct me if I'm wrong, you want to establish a rapport. You want to make sure that that client's not going to go anywhere, and you tell them, hey, you really need to get this pre-qual done. It's critical in this market. You all know that. So you got to kind of bite that bullet, and you can do it in a very non-threatening way. What Josh was alluding to, there's a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. We almost all do pre-quals. Some of us do a better job than others. An example is, I run Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac's desktop underwriter or loan, I keep forgetting, loan prospector for Freddie Mac. FHA, we use Fannie Mae's DU, desktop underwriter. And I actually run those programs. And those are the same programs that the underwriter runs. So I can tell whether I'm going to have an approval based on my due diligence, make sure I have all the documentation. In fact, that program tells you what documentation we need. And we pretty much underwrite to that program. We don't have a bunch of overlays at all. But there's also what's called a pre-approval. And my group that underwrites my files is now putting pre-approvals in, if you want, behind obviously purchases and refis. So if you have a client who's really serious about looking, and they want to take the time to get a pre-approval, I can actually put in a loan that I get all the documentation. I'm doing it just like your actual loan. It goes into the system and it gets underwritten without an address. That's a pre-approval. Going in with a contract saying my borrower is pre-approved, not pre-qualified, but this file has been reviewed and approved by an underwriter is huge if you're competing against others who don't have that. So to Josh's point, it's critically important in this market if you're not paying cash. Josh, you're muted, bud. We all do it.
And to the best of your knowledge, nobody really knows about that. So that would be something that when we send that email or have a blatant communication with that other agent to literally spell out the differences, right? To be able to give that edge, because not many people, I think, know truly what that means. It's already pre-underwritten. We're good, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Right. And which means all the documentation is reviewed. The only thing we're waiting on is an address, right? And a loan amount, but they're pre-approved up to whatever loan amount we do it for.
Perfect. So
I want to mention, well, I will talk about later things I can do to help a deal. So go ahead, Josh.
No, put it in order. Absolutely.
Well, I get calls sometimes from listing agents. And I don't know, you might have all done it if you've listed properties and sold them. You'll call the lender and try to get a feel from the lender what kind of comfort level you have that they've really done the pre-qualification, right? We have all these little boxes we check, tax returns and all these things. Did they really look at them? Did they really get them?
Yeah.
You have to trust that the loan officer is honest. He isn't marking that off if he hasn't looked at those documents.
Yeah.
I put an A or I put no. If I haven't looked at it, if I check yes, I have it. If I have a pre-qual for someone who's self-employed, I'm not doing it without tax returns, period. You can't. I mean, if you look at the pre-qual form, it says you have to do an application, pull credit, and have a discussion of income and assets. I've never talked to someone who's self-employed who knew how much money they made. Well, they'll tell me how much they make, but they really don't know how much we calculate they make. So they made $100,000. They're thinking gross receipts. Well, that's not what you really made. You made $30,000 because you wrote off $70,000.
Yeah.
So as a loan officer, I actually want to talk to the listing agent. I always volunteer. Hey, if you want me to, I'll get the listing agent a call, be proactive and tell them about the client, the due diligence I did on the pre-qual without going over specifics, excellent credit, low DTIs are low. I'm not going to give specific numbers, but I can tell the agent information makes it very comfortable that this loan will close.
That's awesome. That's perfect. And in this, you start from the immediate moment. We'll get a little ahead of ourselves here, but starting to schmooze and putting your best foot forward immediately. And it's like, if you call that person saying, hey, I got a client that loves your house, and you're still on site, obviously, the moment they say they're interested, it's like, hey, we got an offer coming your way. By the way, their lender's going to call you and just talk about how awesome they are and how fast you can close, man. We're on our way. It's laying that foundation from the very beginning and having that partnership with a wonderful lender who might happen to be available via cell phone on nights and weekends. Not that he wants to always be, but he is.
I get agents on those deals that'll call me on a weekend, and I'll pick up the phone, right? Or if I don't, because sometimes I get sales calls, and if they leave a message, I'm right back to them. So Josh is right. I don't turn my phone off. I do sometimes, wonder if it's a sales call. But I do call back if they leave a message. Absolutely.
Perfect. So the last part about getting your ducks in a row, and this is the funnest part in today's market, guys, right? Listing a home. If they need to sell their home, when to do it, how to do it, convincing them to do it, that whole fun shebang. Now, if we really boil it down, for them to buy a home today, right? If a seller is going to take their offer even remotely seriously, how far through the listing process, or let's rather say sales process, should that listing really be? Anybody?
I know.
That's the tough one. Nobody wants to list because they're afraid of where will I move? But then without them listing, there is nowhere to move because there's no listings. But at the same time, they have to list their home in order to buy their new home. In most cases, obviously, if they could qualify for both homes, wonderful. But it's getting tougher and tougher because home values are getting more and more expensive. So therefore, people are needing more and more income. So it's not always guaranteed they can afford both homes. That would be wonderful. But in that case, it's convincing them of the benefit of listing their home yesterday. And Keith, go through kind of like, just that little spiel about qualifying for two homes, first one really fast. Like, what are you?
Well, I'll give you an example right now. I have a repeat client of mine who contacted me about a month or so ago. Hey, Keith, we're looking to sell our house, move into a bigger house. I want to make sure I can qualify for $600,000 purchase price. So it was really easy to qualify once his house was sold. Well, he just contacted me just a few days ago. What's today, Thursday? It was actually Monday. He contacted me on Sunday. Oh, and I picked up the phone. And he wanted to know if he could qualify with his existing home. So let me look at the numbers. So here's what I ended up telling him. So I asked him, did he have a 401k? Right, we talked about that before. I looked up, kind of got an estimate of what his value was on his house. I knew what he owed on his loan. And here's what I packaged for him on how he could qualify with his existing home. Might be line of credit for the maximum amount you can. He already actually had a 401k loan against his 401k, so he has to pay that off to borrow another again. It's a small one. So I said, take that cash, pay out the 401k loan. I said, but wait until we're under contract on new house. Pay out the 401k loan. Now you can borrow $50,000 on that because you verified it, right? We don't have to count that payment against you because it's 401k. The credit line, we're going to just use the interest-only payment. And based on doing all that, he could do 20% down, qualify for a $600,000 mortgage, not have to worry about MI, doing all that stuff, and get qualified. So That's a way, if you look at all, again, it goes back to what I said before. I have to know the picture that's painted there, right? And if I don't have all the colors, I can't do the full picture. And if I don't have the full picture, I can't give advice on how good it looks, right? I got a girlfriend who's an artist. I guess I just did an art kind of analogy. I don't know why, but that's what I did. But anyway, guys, so people may not think they can qualify with their existing home. Sometimes they can if you use a little bit of, I hate to use that term creative. That kind of has a bad connotation. In my world, I think it does. But if a loan officer really knows the tools they can use, you can sometimes do things that someone didn't think they can do. And I'll give you another quick example of that. This individual wanted to buy a house with his existing home. His loan officer he's used in the past told me he couldn't qualify because of COVID restrictions on self-employed. His income had been going down. So he calls me up. I know him through a coffee connection group at Tempe Chamber. And I looked at the numbers and stuff, and I said, I'll look at it, but let me see what happens. I called him up and said, well, based on what they told you, I have to agree. I can't qualify you based on your income. However, he's in his 60s. And I said, do you have a retirement account or anything? Well, he has a substantial amount in a retirement account. So what did we do? I said, dude, set up an automatic withdrawal monthly. I need you to draw X amount per month and I can qualify you.
That's awesome.
We only need to have one payment. And we did it. We closed his loan last week.
Very cool.
So again, knowing the situation and what options you can use, I was able to get him a loan when somebody else told me couldn't. So again, that could also be a strategy for someone who may want to qualify without selling the current home. A way to get them more income. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to then qualifying for that home first, that's perfect, right? Or being able to qualify for both homes. That's wonderful. On the vice versa of that, none of us want to take people out that think they can and can't. And then you find the perfect home and then you find out that they need to sell their home to be able to qualify for it. So being able to convince people to do what it takes, given they're scared of an inventory conflict or anything like that, is tough. So that leads us to number 3, which is